Hello, 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 everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Well, it's still morning here in Alabama anyway. It's 11 a.m. Central Time. Wherever you may be, I know that it could be in a different time zone and it could be really early in the morning or whatever. But anyway, yes, my name is Cassandra Williamson, and I am the Executive Director for Transgender Diverse Veterans of America Action Group and also of our the C3 side too, Transgender and Diverse Veterans of America and Transgender Diverse Veterans of America Action Group. So I've got both of those. I'm the executive director for both. Today's going to be an interesting conversation. I may be going back and forth between a lot of different things. I'm going to try to slow down the speed, the rate at which I say things too, because there's a lot going on, and we actually need to digest what's going on and what's happening in the world around us today. Today is September the 28th, 2023. It is a Thursday morning, I believe. Still Thursday? Yeah, I think so. So anyway, thanks for watching wherever you may be from, whatever platform you may be watching on. We're broadcasting to Facebook, 2 accounts on Facebook, LinkedIn, 2 accounts on YouTube and Twitch and Twitter, and also live on our website. So I'm going to start the day off with a little joke, a little thing that I heard. One of my good friends from down in Florida mentioned this several times, twice. I've heard it from them twice. And hopefully I can do justice to this thing. And so anyway, and I don't tell jokes real well. I just tell you that up front. But anyway, so this is not really a joke. There's a poignant story to this, a very real story, something you need to be aware of every time you do something, every time you're walking through life, every decision that you make. All right. So one time there was this person who ended up going to hell. Okay. And a bunch of people, whatever, but this person, the transgender person, let's put it that way, a transgender veteran, as a matter of fact, ends up in hell, and he's got 3 doors to choose from. Let me see if I can find the logo. But anyway, so I've got one. It's over it was somewhere in the blast that went out about it. But anyway, so there's 3 doors there, and he gets to choose which door he wants to go into. And you can look in the doors and actually see where you wish to go in Hades, down there in the hot, steamy halls of Hades, whatever. Anyway, so he makes a decision. He actually looks in door 1, and there's people with their head in the water in there, and that's all they can do. Their heads down in the water. That's he's just stuck in the water, and struggling to breathe and can't breathe. There's water around them all the time, but they can't drink any of the water because obviously, in hell it would turn to steam anyway. But so it just burn you up. That's just, the water's horrible. And so he decides that's not the door for him, at least so far. And the second one is he steps into this room, and let me see if I've got this correct, but it's let me see what's oh Lordy. Anyway, this other room, he steps into that room, and this person in there is just working their tail off. They're being beaten up and all the time, and they can't breathe because it's so hot and so steamy in there, and you can't do anything in that room. It's just sweltering hot in that second door in the second room in hell. Okay, so then the third door though, when he looks inside that door, they're just a bunch of people are standing around, and they've got their wine glasses in their hand, and they're drinking and they're smoking and whatever they do there. They're partying up in that one. Just having a good old time in there. It just looked like the best place to be. If he had to go, since he's in hell, he had to pick door number 3. Okay, so that's what he chose. He chose door number 3. Well, he goes in there and he gets his smokes or whatever. Since he is a smoker, I don't smoke, but anyway, so he goes in there and drinks it up, partying up. There's music playing, and there's a DJ up on stage and all this stuff, and it just looks like it's just so amazing in there. A good, peaceful place. And after about 10 minutes of that, though, someone yells out, "Break's over, head back in the ship. Put your head down in the pile of crap," okay? He just got to peek in the door when they were having their break. But the rest of the time, though, they got their heads stuck in the sand and in the crap and in the bullshit down there, okay? So pick wisely. There's probably no place to be. I would rather choose something else other than Hades. Okay, would you? But anyway, so the point of the story is obviously, and you can figure that one out, is you have to be careful of what you see. You have to be careful of the observations that you observe around you in the world you see around you, and if it's flashy and glittery and gold and a gold toilet and all this kind of stuff out there. I mean, if it's all of those things and it sparkles and shines and there's lots of dollars and jewelry and gold and diamonds and stuff associated with it and platinum, and and it's a big golf course kind of thing associated with it. I'm not pointing out any names, but man, if it's got all of that kind of trinkets and all those things going on around you, then beware, because when break's over, you get to shove your head back down in the ship. Good morning, everyone. I hope the point went across well, but here's the thing. Here's something I just want to say out there. These are some tough times for all of us. And we're going to have to make sure that we are prepared. We've prepared our hearts and our minds and our souls and everything about us. We've prepared ourselves for this struggle that's ahead. It will not be easy. It will not be fun. Many of those days will be dark and bleak and horrible, and lots of horrible things may be said and about us and about others and all this kind of thing that's going on out there. But I want to tell you that we win in the end. We win this in the end, and we really have to put on the toughest armor we've got. And as veterans, go back in and put on your armor, put on everything that you've got, but put yourself in an armored personnel carrier, get in there, get inside something that protects you. That can be family, that can be friends and associates, that can be organizations like this one, whatever it might be. Get out there and be a part of it, okay? Surround yourself with strength and those who are strong, and those who want to bring you down or that you allow to bring you down. Then it may be time to, back off a minute, take your short break, catch your breath, and get back in the fight. Because these aren't times to run from the fight. These are days and times that we have to get into it, head first, straight into it, and take on this stuff that wants to eradicate us. Take on those well-funded $265 million war chest organizations that want to go out there and erase you and eradicate you, delete you, excise you, who cause you unreal and unnatural. Because if you back down, we lose. And yeah, it's tough, but take care of yourself. That's the priority. Take care. You know your limits. You know what you can and cannot handle. I can handle an awful damn lot, okay? I can do it. I can push through. And I will go after things that go after you and us, okay? So that's what we're trying to do here, is we're trying to raise up this army of people who are, like-minded, who support us. They can be our allies. They can be multiple identities, intersecting identities of all kinds, everything. We've got to focus on moving into the struggle that's ahead of us. This is a good fight, as John Lewis said. This is a good fight. We don't run from the good fight. We don't hide. We don't stick our head in the sand, and we don't let the devil tell us that, hey, this is a big party. Break's over. Head back in the sand. We've got to actually push through and put on the thickest armor we can, and don't let people get into your skin, under your skin about it. We have to fight and go straight into this, because otherwise they will do exactly what they tell you they want to do. They have told us who they are. Who are we to deny them their right to be who they are, right? Well, they've told us. They've told us exactly who they are. They've proven it. Now, anytime someone says, or an organization says, or whomever or whatever says, one, we are going to erase everything about you from the whole of the federal government. We're going to delete everything about you that identifies you in the whole of federal government. And anytime someone says we want to eradicate or excise any of you, all of us, simply because we don't look vanilla like them, you know. I'm serious about that. And I don't mean vanilla like in whitewashed vanilla. I mean, they want no reference to anything at all that's different. They don't want research done that's on anything different. As a matter of fact, they're going after terms like sexual orientation and gender identity, diversity, equity, inclusion, intersectionality, all those words they think of as, well, let me just put it this way. In the second paragraph, right after all that, in the paragraph right down below that, they say that these people, this ideology, they call it an ideology. I'm not an ideology. I don't know about you. They just is so offensive to call me an ideology. I know I'm not an ideology. The conservatism is an ideology. Republicanism is an ideology. Communism is an ideology. Being transgender, not an ideology. Being transgender is who we are. We've been here for thousands of years, thousands and thousands and thousands of years. You know, calling us an ideology. You know why they do that, though? You know, that dehumanizes us. That puts us in this little box over here that says this is a group these are a group of people who think they are this way, and therefore when they think that way, then that makes them an ideology. No. I don't know where you got that crap from. But anyway, it's just craziness. But then right underneath that, right near the same section, in the same little section, they start talking about the First Amendment and that we're not protected by the First Amendment, meaning there's unreal and those unnatural people that they wish to erase, eradicate, delete, and excise aren't protected by the First Amendment. That whole line of reasoning, they say, is just, that's not protected in the U.S. Constitution. How do you feel about not being protected by the U.S. Constitution? That makes me pretty freaking mad. You know why? I served in defense of that Constitution, along with all the amendments and the changes that had to take place because the original needed some help. They were really young men. Most of these people who wrote that darn thing were really young men who were not experienced in a lot of things. And you're going to say you're wrong about it. No, we have a tendency to think that the people who wrote that were old and gray haired and all that kind of stuff and wise. These were revolutionaries. These were young, radical revolutionaries who wrote the Constitution, who wrote the Articles of Confederation, who wrote the Declaration of Independence. They were young men, white young men, property owners. They're the ones who wrote it. And I'm not saying anything was bad about that, except that there was a lot of things that needed to be fixed and changed. Thank goodness they put an amendment section in there, right? So anyway, that whole thing about all of that, just lifting everybody up on a pedestal from that period of time. Well, I can tell you what Jefferson said about it. Thomas Jefferson. In 1816, he wrote a letter to his friend Samuel Kercheval, July the 12th, I think, of 1816. Wrote a letter to his friend Samuel Kercheval, and in it he says, the men of the people who developed all this stuff of the past who are no longer with us, and this was 1816, quite a few of them had already passed prior to that. But he said, you're right to keep them, hold them in high esteem, but not to put them up on a pedestal because they were men just like you are. And that whole thing about misogyny kicks in real quick. But anyway, so he was saying in this letter, now the very first part of the letter is really funny. The very first part of the letter that he wrote to Samuel Kercheval, July 12th of 1816 was, don't tell anybody out there in the world that I actually think like this. This is what I actually believe, okay? Because I've got an image I have to maintain down here on my farm in Virginia, and I don't want to have people think this. So that letter didn't get put out there for quite a while, until well after he had passed, I guess. But anyway, so that was in the first paragraph or so. And he starts talking about all these things and all these ideas about, and really strange thing is, he says, let me give a little preface to this. He had been studying the actuary tables and things like that and statistics of people and generations and all this stuff was starting to come together, and they were starting to understand the patterns and the ages and all this kind of stuff that, how long people live, how long is a generation. At that time is estimated to be about 20 years or so. So he was saying that every 20 years, and he said in his letter, every 20 years or so, you should revisit the things that were written there in that time, because we know more. And he said the institutions should reflect the new knowledge. The institutions that we create should reflect the new knowledge. Where we are today, right now, in this. I mean, we know more. We're a little older. We're a little wiser, hopefully. We know more. So why would, and this is what he said, why would you or anyone try to force me to wear the coat of my youth in my old age, when I know better, in my older age? And that's a very poignant statement. Very poignant statement. Something that most people who study Thomas Jefferson just gloss right over that. You have to point it out to them. That's really how Thomas Jefferson thought. And by the way, the reason I use Thomas Jefferson is because, a lot of the work that comes out of Heritage, a lot of the work that comes out of the Federalist Society and all that kind of stuff, you see them tying everything they can to Thomas Jefferson and then ignoring Alexander Hamilton because they just don't like him at all, hardly. And I'll tell you, I've read a lot of Alexander Hamilton's papers, probably about 95%, and about 55 or so percent of Thomas Jefferson's personal papers and letters. So, I'm saying that because you really got to change things every now and then. When you don't do it frequently, and he said this in this letter too. We abhor this frequent changing, or the possibility of frequently changing things in the Constitution to reflect the present time. It should be done methodically and slowly and deliberately. And the Constitution enables that kind of thing, but it's a very deliberative process. But nowhere in there does it say that we should exclude people just because they don't look like us. That people who don't look like us, as in the ruling class, if you don't look like us, then you're not protected by the Constitution. No, the Constitution is written for the whole of the nation, right? So for the Heritage Foundation to say in the forward to Project 2025 that this group of people, because they have an ideology or whatever that claims to be an ideology, identifies as an ideology in an effort to dehumanize us, then what happens is it plants that seed to say that's the next logical step is, well, we'll just round them all up, throw them in whatever, you know where that can lead, right? We've seen it far too many times in history. There's really good examples of how horrible it becomes for those people in a nation or in a country or in a state when another group of people are dehumanized to the point that, hey, it doesn't make it bad to go out and take them on, right? You can go out and wipe them off the face of the earth because they're not like the rest of us, right? That's what that forward does. It says that plainly, clearly. If you don't know what that means, go back into, maybe the 1920s and 30s. You'll see some similarities there that will absolutely shock you. If you look at it with open eyes, you don't sit there and got your blinders on. You don't sit there and you go, ouch, I better go. Let me tell you, you've got to stand up and fight today for your right to live freely in this nation, for which many of this organization and, we're veterans. Not all. We've got a lot of allies out there now and supporters out there who aren't veterans and work with us and work inside this organization because, we're a welcoming organization ideologically too. But yet the things that are going on right now in this country from the extremes on either side, but right now the loudest screams and noise is coming from the right, okay? And we know that. We all see it, and they're coming after. If you don't feel like you got this bullseye somewhere on you, well, it's there. They certainly have put you out there on it. So better be, you know, battening down the hatches here and trying to get yourself ready, because we're in this for a long fight between now and noon Eastern on January the 20th. And whoever takes over, whoever wins the presidency on January the 20th, noon Eastern, when that person says, "So help me God," and guess what's coming? The Heritage Foundation has set up, and it's not just the Heritage Foundation, it's a whole bunch, there's about 70 organizations all came together to create this thing in a collaborative effort. And they signed off on it. 70 organizations and hundreds of academics and other individuals. I think they got their degrees in the Cracker Jack box, and seems like it. But anyway, so they all agreed to this, the final form of it. They all agreed to this, the forward that's in it. I mean, here it is, this document, claiming that some Americans, just because they aren't like them, aren't vanilla enough, that they aren't protected by the Constitution. If that doesn't offend you and push aside all the things that might cause you not to join and get active in this effort, I don't know what will. It's definitely, we've got to do this now and fight, because if we don't, we will cease to exist in this country in a public and open forum. We will cease to exist, because that's what they want to do. And you know, if you think it's just about transgender people, you've got another thing coming. Because you know what the other words were in that document? Diversity, equity, inclusion, abortion. I mean, they put it all in there. If you're a woman, you're under threat from this document. If you're a minority, racial or ethnic minority, you're under threat by this organization. If you are lesbian, gay, or bisexual, you're under threat by that document. And why did they go after the transgender people? Well, because they've tried going after the LGBT people for the past 30 years, maybe 40, piling them all over there in the pedophile range and all that kind of stuff, and trying to equate them all the same, put them together, pornography and pedophilia and all that kind of stuff. They've lumped it all together for a long time. So they've used that as a political weapon, trying to get things moved in the direction that they want, which would mean, obviously, they stand against marriage equality. Obviously, they stand against any gay person or lesbian couple or whomever, whatever your family structure is. They've objected to you having or adopting kids, right? I mean, we've known that. It's been going on for decades. But now transgender people are we're the topic du jour, okay? We're the topic of the day. And why? Because, there aren't that many of us. There's only 1.6 million of us, something like that in the country, in the U.S. 0.6%, 0.6 to 0.7% of any given population is trans. So here we are, the easiest target. How many LGBTQ plus people are in the United States? Well, roughly about 23 million, estimated to be about 23 million. And I suspect that's an undercount in a large way, because some people just don't tell you. And they don't have to tell you either. But they estimate those numbers at be about 23 million total LGBTQ plus people in the country. And when there's only 1.6 million transgender people in the country, many of whom are veterans, then it's easy to pile on them. It's easy to punch down and say, hey, that group, hey, all of you people who have larger numbers, it's a numbers thing. There's only 1.6 million of them, but there's 20 million LGB people. Let's get the LGB people to punch down on the trans people. Go clink, clink, because there aren't many of them. We can make a target out of them, okay? And then they get those. Then the larger groups above that, they start punching down on the LGB people, and the one above that punches down on that one. Before long, you get to the place where there's no one left to punch, because you wiped them all out, and then it becomes your time. So your time. And then whenever they come after you, what happens then? Who's going to stand with you at that point? I know this is an analogy that we've heard over and over and over and over again incessantly for years. But I want to just say that because, we have got to start coming together. The 23 million LGBT people out there and our allies, which pushes it up far higher than that. A lot more people out there. If you put the allies and the providers who are supportive of us and you put all the LGBTQ plus people all together in a total number, what do you end up with? I don't know, probably 60 million, 60, 70 million people in the country actually do support us. But what are they doing? What are they doing to back that up, to back up that support? What are they doing for that? Well, I want you to do something. This is what I want to ask you to do, okay? See that website right there on the screen right now, the tdva-ag.com? If you support our identities, if you support who we are, if you support our right to live and be protected, or live in this nation and be protected by the Constitution that has created it, then if you could donate $1 a day, or not a day, that'd be great. $1 a month. $1 a month on a recurring basis to that organization, www.tdva-ag.com, we would be moving a long way towards being able to take on $265 million war chest of those who don't want us, because that organization is the largest in the country, most influential. And they intend to vet and prepare and train and make sure they can get security clearances of 20,000 people to sweep in and accomplish their goals from day one if a conservative wins the White House January 20th of 2025. That's their goal. If you're not standing with us in this fight, get out of the way. We have got to fight this. And we've got to stand together to do it. And you have to put on the strongest armor you can, because you're going to have arrows flinging at you like crazy. But we're veterans, not just veterans of the military, but we're veterans of this kind of fight too, right? We know exactly what that's like. We've been dodging bullets and dodging arrows and dodging needles and pricks and all that kind of stuff for a long time. Well, the needle. The other applies too, probably. But anyway, so it's really easy to sit back and say, no, we'll let everybody else fight this fight. We're not going to do anything about it. We know if we just turn the other cheek and then turn that one and turn the other cheek and the chin and get the chin hit and the nose hit, if we do all of that and just let them punch at us and let them try to destroy us, let them try to show the rest of the country that we aren't human enough to be protected by the Constitution, that they were unreal people, that were unnatural people. Well, what they are implying in that, and they didn't say it, but what they're implying in that one little statement, what they're implying in that one little statement is a corporation has more personhood and protections under the Constitution than we do. That's what they're saying. I don't know about you, but that's really offensive to think that a corporation has more personhood and more protections in this country than I do as a trans person who happens to be also a veteran and a parent and a grandparent. Really? Oh my gosh. So it is time we started kicking it in, folks. I'd like to bring on a panel discussion on here, academics and other people out in the country. And I want to just go into this Project 2025 and just tear it apart with a panel of experts, a panel of academic professionals, anyone who is familiar with that and who is passionate about it. I mean, I'd like to get a panel together of 2 or 3 or whatever, some people in here to come on stage with me. And then let's debate all that. Let's tear into it. Let's talk about it, because we have got to keep the fire on those people who are writing this stuff and putting it out there. It's obviously the Heritage Foundation's out there because they're the largest one of all of those. And obviously they're out there. But something, you've got Alliance Defending Freedom, you've got America First Legal, you've got all these other group. There's 70 some organizations all working together to make that thing come to fruition, to make it come alive if they win the presidency in January of 2025, or actually when they take over the presidency, if they do win the presidency, then they get, raise your right hands and say, so help me God, noon Eastern, January 20th of 2025. If that occurs, a conservative person is doing that, this document, the Project 2025 document, a book and a PDF document, don't give them any more money. Don't go buy the darn thing. Just download the free version, the PDF. It's on their site. I think it's project2025.org. Okay. Go there, find it. You can find the link to it, download it, and read it. You can read the thing there. So, we're in this for the fight of our lives. And people have been saying that, if we just do it this way or do it that way, that's what we did yesterday and whatever. That hasn't worked, folks. That has not worked. Sure, it gained us a few things. Sure, it gained us marriage equality. Sure, it opened up the door for open and accepting service within the military of all of us in the LGBT and trans community. Finally, that we're still having to fight for economic freedom in a lot of things and the protections under the Constitution. We're still fighting, and still fighting. Been fighting for a long freaking damn time, to put it bluntly. So here's, we've got to do this. We got to keep fighting it. Got to keep plugging along. And if we could get, this is a massive effort to reach out across the country, from the middle of the country to the shores of the country, north and south, east and west. We got to cover the whole country. And it's going to take a huge narrative push of people like, going through these kind of things with us here at TDVA and TDVA AG, getting the messaging right, presenting a common story across the country, and then hammering on that, because we don't want them to be able to dehumanize another group of Americans so badly that they can erase us and delete us and, excise us from government. The whole of the federal government. Talking about the words that would define us, completely erase and eradicate all that stuff across the whole of government and every regulation, policy, agency. If you're in the VA and you've got, you're in the LGBTQ plus office in the VA, or if you're in the Office of Minority Affairs in the VA, even though it's congressionally mandated, they intend to remove them. If it's a DE&I office, they intend to remove it, or at least defund it if they can't get it closed down. And that's all they have to do, is just take the money out from under it, and effectively it's gone. And so that's what they're actually trying to do right now. You've got Congress people up there zeroing out, or at least going all the way down to $1 for the salary for people like Lloyd Austin, Secretary of Defense. There are people in there who put amendments into the appropriations bills that would drop his salary to $1, effectively firing him. There are people in there who put in an amendment to the appropriations bills that would take down to $1. Our other friend in the Department of Veterans Affairs, who happens to be a trans person, trans person, pulling their salary down to $1. This is a targeted assault by stupidity and ignorance. If you're not riled up about it, you don't get pissed off about it, you don't get in and do something and help in this fight, Lord, they're going to win this thing. If you let them control the narrative, let me give you an idea. Let me give you this. Let me tell you what's going on. Monday morning, I get up and there's a thing in the Washington Examiner. And yeah, I do read a lot of these other things too, because, you've got to know your enemy. So I read a lot of this other stuff. And then the Washington Examiner put out this missive from them, specifically not from any other authors, but from them, in collaboration with the Heritage Foundation Alliance Defending Freedom and several other conservative organizations. Guess what they're doing? Every story, every day this week, they are targeting university level or academic level DE&I programs across the country. They are right. You can go there right now and you'll find 2 or 3 written today, maybe more written today, just on that topic. and they've got different people writing different things for them, but it's all focused. This whole week, they got all their people organized to do one thing, to talk about a DE&I program or diversity, equity, inclusion efforts and programs in academia. But here's the craziest thing about it. They say, no, that's not, it goes against the Constitution for these DE&I programs to be there. So we're going to remove them and eliminate that and everything about it. We want to get rid of all of that kind of thing because, we want them to go to the right education. Somebody said that earlier in a different document that I read somewhere. But the right education, I think I know what it was. It was somewhere on Twitter. I read something like that. But anyway, they said that, and I'm going, so D&I is unconstitutional. Actually, it goes against the First Amendment, according to them. But you pushing your ideology isn't? I'm kind of curious. That's a lot of hypocrisy right there. From my experience on campus, and I've been involved in some D&I programs. So I've been involved with those things. And I want to tell you, people say, these are exclusionary and all that. No, they're not. They recognize diversity comes in ideological differences as well. And then people will go, and then I've heard this comment too. That safe space stuff, people don't need a safe space. That's something the kids would do. Well, think of a safe space like this. And I've had this conversation with a dear friend of mine, a good friend of mine. I've had this conversation about that. Rather than thinking of, a safe space is the label we give to a place where you can feel like you're safe. Like whenever you go home, you feel like you can push off everything on the outside of the world, and you walk in your door and you sit down on your couch in your living room. You feel like you're home, and you don't have to worry about all the crap that's hitting the doors and windows out there, right? Just because you're a little different than somebody else. It's like going home. It's like giving you a place where you can feel at ease and not have to fight every step of the way for who you are and let you live. But that also applies ideologically too. I mean, sure, there are Republican clubs all over every campus in this country. There are liberal clubs on every campus in this country. And for you to tell me that the academic environment this day is restricting discussion and open and dialogue and the Socratic method, yeah, you're just full of shit. I don't know how to tell you that any other way. And people become cliquish, always. They always do. If you have a Republican club on campus, guess who's attending that club? Mostly people who lean conservative, right? Over on the Republican side. Guess who would not fit well in that group? Someone who is from the far left going in there. But here's what you're trying to do without doing it. You're saying that your club is fine in its homogeny, but their clubs over here, their groups over here on this side, no, you can't do that because that doesn't include everyone. But your groups are protected in some way and shielded from that. Now, anyone on the left, it obviously goes both ways. Obviously, it goes both ways. It's not a one-way street. It's not a black and white issue. It's not, a binary discussion. These things happen naturally, or they separate out into that kind of group, okay? Those groups are somewhat different. And other people don't feel at ease being in the one that's not like them, and vice versa. But for you to walk around, for whomever, to walk around and say, you can't do that. That goes against the First Amendment of the Constitution. But we don't want you in our groups over here because we think you might pollute it. Well, doggone. Where's that? You don't see the hypocrisy in that? Oh my God. That's a failure of reasoning. Talk about critical thinking, critical reasoning and thinking. That's a failure of logic because you're not applying what you want to apply to this other group over here that you don't like. You have certain standards you expect them to go by, but you're not doing it for yourself. Why? Because, well, Probably it's arrogance. You think that, well, we're open, anybody can come in over here. That's just blind arrogance, right? To assume that that's the case, that this side is so right and then so much in the right, that the other side is so wrong and so much in the wrong, that all you need to do is just go after the wrong ones because they're unreal or unnatural, or or we just have to delete any reference to them. But oh my, ours is fine. We don't do that over here. There's two words for that, and both, one starts with a B and the other one starts with an S. It's just crazy that this stuff is going on and we're having to deal with it at this time and this day and time in the history of the world. But something, I can wax academic in any way, and I've been told, tone down the use of those big words. You got to sound more like, use the words like bigly, because people won't understand you. Oh my God. So I'm supposed to talk at the second or third grade level. That's what I've been told. Is that true? Do I really need to talk like that? Like, I don't even remember talking like that in the second and third grade. Oh, geez. So anyway, oh my gosh. If all of this stuff doesn't really get under your skin, well, actually, let me just put it like this. Let it get to you. Let this be the drive that tells you, I've got to do something now. I don't care how bad it may be towards me. And here's a good example for you, by the way. Here's a really good example for you to follow. There's been a lot of stories recently about the young woman who won homecoming queen in Kansas City at her high school. And people tore into them. And somebody, I read it just a little bit ago. Somebody said, you need to just drag that boy off the field and beat the crap out of him. What? What? Oh my God, that's just stupid. She won by a landslide to be homecoming queen of her high school. And her attitude is, they're just going to say that crap and I don't care. I'm going to be me anyway. Right. That's exactly right. You need to get to that place where all the arrows that keep coming at you, all the vitriol, all the things that offend you in some way, you've got to find a way to set them aside, to get in the middle of this fight right now at this time in this country. But here's the thing. It's not just in this country. And I'm not going to go into the cycles of history and all that kind of stuff, which, I obviously could and have and do frequently. But anyway, you've got to find a reason to get active and get involved in things and go do something. And you can do that, the opposite. Let me just put it like this. All those 70 organizations and the hundreds of people that work together, they raised $20 million or $22 million to make sure that Project 2025 is a reality if a conservative wins the presidency in November of 2024 and then takes office on January the 20th at noon Eastern on January the 25th of 2025, or 20th of 2025. When they raise that hand and say, so help me God, this group of people with the $22 million funding towards this project to train and educate, evaluate, and set up academies for candidates and potential federal employees and stuff like that, get them ready to walk in. $20 million or $22 million for that. And then you got in the year 2022, Heritage Foundation had a war chest left over after paying all of their salaries, all of their other activities, programs of $265 million. Yeah, that information is actually located on their Form 990, which is an IRS form for nonprofits to file annually. So $265 million and then $22 million for this over here. We've got a lot of catching up to do. And if every person listening, every person out there, if you can spread the word, get people to come in, if you can get people to come in and just contribute $1 a month, And I think most of you can afford $1 a month, right? I mean, most of us can go under the couch in our living room, dig down in the corners of that thing somewhere and find change in there probably somewhere. Or in my case, I know I've got that at least that much money sitting in my purse in the bottom of it. There's enough change in there. I've got enough of that change sitting in my drawers, right? My drawers at this desk I'm sitting at right now in this little office. Find that $1 a month, make it a recurring contribution. Go over to the TDVA-AG website, the www.tdva-ag.com website. Go there and contribute that money. Help us fight this. Join with us in this effort. If you want to write for us, do that too, as frequently as you want. If you want to write a blog or a newspaper article, like something around 200 to 300 words or something short, do that. Once a week, once a month, whatever. Get them to us. You can send them to me if you'd like. Let me get my email address up here. Here, right there. You send it to that email address. That will go to me, executive.director@tdva-ag.com. Send something there. Let me know you want to write for us. Let me know that you want to help us with social media. How much time can you devote to helping us towards social media impact and SEO stuff? You know, what can you do? What can you do to help? Are you good with IT? Can you step in and take over the whole section of our IT department? I'd love to be able to do that. Have somebody walk in and come in and do that, and take it over, to do it and run it for us. But, you know, we do ask, though, that you be at least friendly to us and accepting of us. But you don't have to be a veteran, and, you know, you don't even have to be LGBTQ plus. I mean, if you are an ally of us and you are or a provider for us, and a supportive ally and a supportive provider, if you're a collaborator with us, then join in this effort, because we need to be able to take and build up this reservoir. And here's why that money is important. Okay. Here's why it's so important to do this. You're not going to shape the narrative of the middle of the country by doing it on social media entirely. You're not going to be able to do that. You have to go out and be there. You have to put word out and across all media platforms and swamp them on a persistent and consistent basis for a period of time, so that they get used to the fact that we're here. I mean, can you imagine, let's see, one of those live action billboards, the electronic billboards, where they have the, you know, stuff you can actually watch the slides go by. I mean, it's, you know, electronic billboard. Can you imagine having transgender veterans on those billboards across the whole of the country? Can you imagine what it would be like to have an opinion piece published in every major newspaper in this country that will do it for us, to be syndicated to that level? Can you imagine that? But you know how much it costs to do stuff like that, to travel and to make that kind of impact? Well, you need about $265 million. No, you've got to have the money to make it happen, because this stuff is not, those with the money are the ones who get the work done. Unfortunately, as sad as that might be, as antithetical to what it would mean to be an American in this country under the Constitution, you still have to use a lot of money to have influence in here. And right now, what we stand at, we're just like a blip on the radar that shows up once and is gone. So if we make enough noise from every one of you out there watching, enough noise for that, you start writing an opinion piece out in your local paper. You can send it to us first and make sure that, you know, we'll stick our name to it too, if it's appropriate for us to do so. But that's on the action group side. We can't do it over on the other side. The other side is the helping and charity. That over there is for helping people, helping our veterans get the care that they rightfully have earned. That's the C3, the TDVA.online. That side of the organization takes care of helping and everything. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do with us and help us out. Get involved in your states. We are building out state directors now, and sometime later today, I hope to be able to get up some profile pictures and some biographies of our newest state directors. And right now we have state directors. We have the amazing Seed Michaels in Virginia as our state director in Virginia, and also they have access to, going into the halls of Congress, doing things. And we've got our vice chairperson of the C3, the helping side, Illyria Stanley. They live there. They have access to DC, and then they're frequently in the DC area frequently. We've got state director in Georgia, Ray Gibson, the son of a former former baseball pitcher, Hall of Fame winner, Bob Gibson, I think. I don't know anything about sports, but anyway, Ray Gibson, a Navy veteran, is also, I think it was Navy, might have been an Army. I don't know, a veteran. Let's put it that way. Just leave it to veteran. But I've got Ray in Georgia. We've got D Holder over in Indiana. We got Trent there in Nebraska. We've got Mike Moran in Arkansas. Let me see. Utah had Dr. Elena Moreno. She has another name at the end of that. And I apologize for not knowing her off the top of my head. But we've got somebody in Utah as our state director. We've got someone in the south part of Texas, South Texas, because Texas is so huge. The state's being broken up into parts. You got a South Texas director, and we have a state director in California. So we're looking for some other states to make this real. And each of those state directors, if you live in their states, reach out to me and we'll connect you with them, because they need to build up their teams also in the state to give you a place to be active and do things right where you are, so that you don't always have to just go to a national organization and say, hey, I'm going to do this. No, you got state directors that you can actually work with and basically establish yourself with them, because there's a lot of stuff that needs to take place in those states. Gathering resource information to put over on our interactive maps. All these kind of things are there. In every state, we need to know that. In every state, we need every media contact we can get. Online, broadcast, whatever, print, all of it. We need all that information. Email addresses for your leaders in the state, from the local level up to the governor. Whatever you can find, any kind of contact information for them, and then establishing programs in your states to not just be able to push again and advocate for LGBTQ plus people and veterans, but also to help when someone is in need. That's a large part of what we're doing. We got a couple of things over there on the right side. I mean, I call it the right side, but anyway, we got a couple of things over there that Sarah would get it. But got a couple of things over there that Sarah, the chairwoman of the board of TDVA, she has got an amazing team of people with Illyria and with Stacy and Kirsten and Crystal, all these people working together to bring to our veterans some amazing projects and programs. One of the first ones, the biggest one that's getting ready to roll out first, will be our program that's called Go Transport. And it'll be tested in New York City or maybe even Richmond, Virginia area, somewhere like that. It'll be tested when we get by middle of November. Roll out something to hopefully have it ready to go. But it offers a ride for veterans in need back and forth from the VA for their VA appointments. Okay, so that's huge. But that's done in collaboration with Uber, who is helping making that Uber, the national corporation Uber, the ride organization. They have been phenomenally supportive, phenomenally collaborative with us, and bringing us into their events where they have been speaking, like out an Equal conference I was at 2 or 3 weeks ago now, down in Florida and Orlando. But Uber has been the one that's making a lot of that stuff available to us and opening the door and saying, come on, we're going in. That's more than an ally. That's somebody who grabs your hand and says, we got this, we're going, come with us. I'll show you what we've got going on. It impacts you too. That's not an ally. That is definitely a supporter. There's another word I was looking for. Starts with an A. Oh my God. I'll think of it in a minute. I need to paste it up here on my computer so I'll remember this stuff. But anyway, so you got that, you got the RIDE program. Tested in one market. It takes a lot of money to make that happen. Any donations made over on the tdva.online website, www.tdva.online, those are tax deductible over there. But things with the C4, this part here, the tdva-ag.com site, your dollar donation each month is not tax deductible. And there's a reason for that, because we actually get out and advocate for and actually stand up in the face of our leaders and organizations that want us gone. We're taking the fight to them over here on this one, the tdva-ag.com, and that's why it was set up that way. You can't do it over on the tdva.online one. That the IRS requirements are very stringent on that side too, particularly. So anyway, that's a lot of what I'm working on this day, and I just want to get you to go from, just remember the little story I told at the beginning of this, and I'll tell it again. I'm going to repeat it right here one more time before we close out for the hour. And that was a person ends up going to hell, okay? And they're standing around there, and I'm standing around looking, and there's 3 doors in front of them. The doors are open. They can see in and see what's going on, but they have to pick one door to go in, and that's where they'll spend the rest of eternity in when they're in Hades, okay? So hopefully you won't ever end up having to make that decision. But anyway, so there's 3 doors in front of them. Both doors open. First door, there's a person in there just struggling to breathe in water. Water is all over the place. It turns to steam as soon as they pick their head up out of that water, and they're trying to breathe, and it's horrible. You feel like you're drowning all the time. You just can't deal with that one, obviously. So you don't want that. The second door, though, you are just see, it is so hot in there. There's nothing to drink, no water, nothing at all. You're just standing there in this place filled with fire, just burning you alive, but you never die. Obviously, you're in there for eternity. That happens. You're just sitting there and you say, nope, that one's not for me either. You don't want the water, having to drown in water. You don't want the fire that just burns you up. The third door is much more interesting, though, because the third door, they're partying. They got their glass of wine in one hand, and if they smoke, they got a cigarette in the other, and all this stuff, and they're just partying. They're having a good time. There's lots of loud music, and people are laughing and happy and joyful and excited to be there. You got the DJ up there playing the music or getting the music out, and you've got a dance party going on this stage, and you got all kinds of stuff going on, and there's food everywhere, and everybody's just enjoying a good old time. You say, I'm going in that one. So you decide to go there. You said, that's the place for me. And there's a lot of people in there. A lot of people have decided that door 3 is for them. They step into door 3, and the door closes behind them. Now they're permanently in there for eternity. So after this person is out there enjoying the dancing and all of that, and the music and the wine and everything that's available in door 3, I guess about 5 minutes or so, or 10 minutes into it, someone yells out, "All right, break's over. Head back in the shit." There's a point. Have a great day, everyone. Enjoy it. Please reach out. Please consider donating to this site so that we can fight these giants, so that we can fight Goliath. We need you. We need you. You are important. You matter. And if you're in a crisis situation, I want to tell you this right now before I close out. If you're in a crisis right now, pick up your phone, dial 988. If you're a veteran, hit option 1. If not, hang on to that and let somebody answer, because I don't want to hear of another person lost to suicide or harm. If you're thinking of hurting yourself or someone else, dial 988. As a veteran, hit option 1 after you do that. Get to talking to someone. We don't want to see another person gone as a result of all this pressure from the outside. And if you are feeling that kind of pressure from the outside, then I encourage you to back off a little bit, catch your breath, rebreathe, re-energize yourself, and then come back into the fight. Don't walk away. Don't put your head in the sand. Don't do any of that stuff. Don't try to hide from this, because you can't hide from it. But regroup, regain your strength and energy. You know how to take care of you. When you do that, get situated, find that peace and find the energy again, and jump back in. Because this is not time to shy away from this. We don't want to shirk our responsibility to helping all people, all minorities in this nation. And if we don't do that, well, if the others get their way, if somebody gets their way, then this becomes United States vanilla Americans. Talk to you later.